August the 22nd, 1946. The Floyd County Times says, demented woman drowns self in farmhouse well. Back in the 40s, mental illness was not something that was very well studied. And the words that they used to describe somebody who had a mental illness were not very nice, as you can see. And I'm going to read from this article about her. While relatives slept, after maintaining close watch on her, after she had allegedly become mentally deranged, 42-year-old Mary Rogers, wife of Andy Rogers, stole from her home at Galveston on Branham's Creek, this county, which is Floyd, shortly before midnight Friday, and drowned herself in a nearby well. Her brother-in-law, G.W. Rogers, said when members of the family awakened around 11 o'clock at night, they found Miss Rogers missing and immediately sought for her at neighboring homes. Failing in this search, they returned to the well, found the woman in 2 feet of water in a bent position. She apparently had climbed into the well, he said, since the milk left in the water to cool had not been overturned. Back then, a lot of people didn't have refrigerators, and they put their milk and their butter and other stuff like that in the well to keep it refrigerated. Her head was only partially submerged. She was not cut or bruised, he added. Miss Rogers is survived by her husband, her mother, Miss Robert Stepp of Galveston, 7 children, 2 of whom, which is Miss Olga Adkins and Miss Alvis Akers, reside at Huntington, West Virginia, the others at Galveston. A brother, Volley Stepp, resides at McDowell, and addresses of 2 sisters was given as Virgie, Kentucky. The funeral was conducted Saturday by the Reverend Martin, and burial was made in the family cemetery. This article is a little confusing. Mary's children are listed as Volley, Virgil, Dixie, Elsie, Gypsy, Olga, Carmel, Carrie, and Betty Sue. That makes a total of 9 children. 7 and 2 had died in infancy. And I found the death certificate for Mary, and I'm going to read from it. Place of death, county, Floyd. City or town, Galveston. Full name, Mary Rogers. Name of husband or wife, Andy Rogers. Birth date of deceased, January 28, 1901. Age 45. Birthplace, Beaver, Kentucky, which is not far from Galveston. Occupation, housewife. Father, Robert Stepp. His birthplace says don't know. Her mother's maiden name was Martha Hamilton. Birthplace, Pikeville, Kentucky. The informant's signature on the death certificate is listed as Olga Gail Jessie, which I think is probably one of her children. And it says address Galveston, Kentucky. Burial Galveston, August the 18th, 1946. Signature of funeral director, none. The immediate cause of death is listed as drowned self in well due to insanity. Accident, suicide, or homicide. It's listed as suicide. Date of occurrence, August the 16th, 1946. Occurred at home. Means of injury, drowning. And the signature says Marvin Ransdell, MD, which I think at one time he was the head over the Floyd County Health Department. And her burial site is unknown. I found on Find a Grave, it says birth January 28th, 1901, birth in Beaver, Kentucky. And it has her listed as age 45. But burial details are unknown, is what is listed. I'm guessing that they're buried in her and her husband, and some of her children are buried in the Rogers family cemetery at Galveston. Because there's no, far as I can tell, there are no markers or headstones for them. Some of the other information I found on her husband, Andrew Jackson Andy Rogers, birth January the 4th, 1882, Pike County, Kentucky, death June the 3rd, 1970. So he lived to be 88 years old. And he passed away at Galveston. Burial details are unknown. And I found information for some of her other children that had died in infancy. Betty Sue Rogers, city or town, Galveston, street number, Lee Alley, number 44. And the date of birth, June 20th, 1940, is listed for her. She was 1 year, 3 months, and 19 days. Father's name, Andy. Birthplace is listed as Osborne, Kentucky. Her mother's maiden name, Mary Stepp. Birthplace, Beaver, Kentucky. Informant's signature, her father, Andy Rogers. Signature of funeral director, none. September the 8th, 1941, 6:45 p.m. and due to diarrhea. Back then, medical care was scarce here in eastern Kentucky during that time. And infants died from complications from what now we would find simple. The signature at the bottom says Marvin Ransdell, MD. Other information I found for one of her other children is listed as Carrie Rogers. And date of birth, April the 10th, 1940. Does it say 48, I think? No, 32. It's hard to read. She was only 5 days old. Birthplace, just says Kentucky. Name of father, Andy Rogers. Maiden name of mother, Mary Stepp of Galveston. Informant, Polly Hall. And I have no idea who that is. Date of death, 4/15/32. 32 or 39. It's hard to read. And the cause of death is listed as bold hives. And I looked it up, and it says in the 1930s, particularly in southern Appalachia, bold hives, or little red hives, was a folk illness affecting infants, a serious condition distinct from ordinary hives, often considered debilitating or even fatal, tied to cultural beliefs about infant health rather than modern medical understanding of allergies or infections. So it was common to see bold hives listed as a death for an infant. And what test confirmed the diagnosis? And it is signed Polly Hall. And place of burial, which I find confusing, it says G.B. Hall Cemetery. Now there is a Greenberry Hall number 2 cemetery over on the Mud Creek section. It is not the same as the Greenberry Hall over on Fraser's Creek. So, does that mean that the rest of the family is buried over on the Greenberry Hall number 2 cemetery over there? Or are they in the Rogers family cemetery at Galveston, which is located on Branham's Creek? And there's a little stretch of road even called Rogers Branch, a little old road that goes right off of Branham's Creek. And I found another bit of information on one of her other children who passed away after Mary had passed. And his name was Carmel A.J. Rogers. And it says he was 18 years old when he passed. And informant's signature, Virgil Rogers of Amba, Kentucky. Galveston, date 1/12/49, January 12th, 1949. Signature of funeral director, E.P. Arnold, out of Prestonsburg. Date of death, January the 10th, 1949. Immediate cause of death, epilepsy. Died during an epileptic seizure. Signature, Marvin Ransdell. The same one as on the other certificates.